Hey everyone, this is Cameron from Renegade Animation on renegadepopculture.com. If you like what we do, please give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to us. We are everywhere. Make sure to share out our episodes and follow us wherever you do. And if you can, consider supporting our Patreon. That way we can keep doing what we love, and that's talk about the supernatural world of animation. And now, on with the show.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And it's time once again for our annual post-Halloween spooky special. We've got reviews for the latest episode of the Amazing Digital Circus and the highly anticipated Adult Swim anime Uzumaki. But first, I guess we should also talk about the Netflix short Sing Thriller, which is exactly what you think it is.
Directed by Garth Jennings. This is just the cast from the Sing movie singing and dancing to Michael Jackson's iconic Thriller. And what else is there? There is literally nothing else. It is amazing how straightforward this is. There's no real plot. There's no thematic element to talk about. It's just a decent majority of the voice cast from the movies: Matthew McConaughey, Tori Kelly, Nick Kroll, Scarlett Johansson, Taron Egerton, Garth Jennings show back up as their characters, and they do a stage version of Thriller, and then they go through a campy horror movie situation where everyone gets hypnotized by this goo to dance Thriller.
It turns out to all be a dream.
It ends literally the same way as the Thriller music video. There's nothing to this, and I'm not saying this as a negative. It's just what you see is what you get, and what it does, it accomplishes what it wants to do. It has the same high quality animation that the franchise is known for from Illumination. Again, Illumination's animation studio in France are extremely good at what they do.
They do great stuff there.
They captured the spooky, fun element of Thriller. Seeing the cast members dance to Thriller is a lot of fun. Even the little stage play is cute. It's fine. There's not much to it, and if you like the Sing movies, then you'll like this. But otherwise, not much else to it. I was kind of hoping there would be a little more to it. Even the bad guys Halloween or Haunted Heist has more to it, even though it's still just as lacking of substance as this is. But I like this one more, and I hate to say this because I don't want to say prettier animation is more appealing to me. But while the bad guys one is done, of course, by their TV animation crew, this Sing Thriller is done by the movie crew, or at least from what I can tell, it is.
I didn't notice a dip in quality between the Sing Thriller and the Sing movies, so I'm going to assume that it is the movie crew. That's probably why it's only 11 minutes and not a full half hour, because they got to use their resources economically.
To people wondering, well, how the heck did they get the movie cast for that? They were probably doing this right when they were wrapping up Sing 2. And then they're like, hey, since you're here, can we pay you to do more voice work for this little Halloween thing that we're making? I mean, so far, Illumination is one of the few studios that does not have a dedicated TV studio section. It'll be interesting to see if they keep doing this with their more holiday specials, but we'll have to see. It's a solid little tribute to one of the most iconic pop songs of all time, but you're not going to get much else out of it.
That's the extent of what I had to say anyway.
I mean, usually when we talk about stuff like this, I don't like blowing through things. And because sometimes it just feels like when you hear there's not much to this, it's usually seen as a negative. But here it's literally not much to it. Let's move on to the highly acclaimed Digital Circus third episode. You know, I was not fully on board with this indie series. Like, I respected and adored that it was doing as well as it was. I mean, it's a bona fide success. And I remember at first, I was thinking how, between us talking about the second episode to now, there was a big shakeup and announcement where Netflix would be streaming Digital Circus episodes. They are exclusive to the service, but they're not beholden to Netflix. The team at Glitch still have full creative control over the whole franchise. And at first I was like, well, there goes another indie pillar that people are going to ignore because they are still in denial about how indie is not actually viable anymore or ever really was. Just because one or two shows made it does not make it a successful industry.
No, at least with the Amazing Digital Circus, it's not the same thing as like Prime Video and A24 taking over.
The Has Been
For
Hotel.
this is more like you can rent our studio space, but you're still basically your own independent operation.
Exactly. Like I said, at first I was like, well, there goes another pillar. How's that savior of animation doing with the indie scene, y'all? But this is the best outcome for Digital Circus. They have another platform to show their show on. They don't have to deal with Netflix's shenanigan, which is something I wish all shows could do because there's nothing fun about getting your whole season dumped onto the service and then getting canceled a week after release. Like, we hope that more stuff like this can happen. So it's not just, oh, Netflix or Prime picked up our show, but now we are beholden to that service. We'll just have to see if that happens more because I love Monkey Wrench. I wish more people supported that show, but I'm not sad at all that nobody watches that show. But let's talk about Digital Circus now. That was just, we couldn't really start the episode without talking about this major victory for the indie animation scene.
It is a major victory.
So, with this one, we get our Halloween horror episode where King is just like, you know what? I got another task for y'all to do, and I'm going to send you to this spooky house full of ghosts. Well, the two teams get separated because they're told to go through one door or the other. And this is where I really started to really fully love this show because a lot of what people love about Digital Circus is what I kind of find like whatever about it. The character archetypes I've seen before, it's another show with a mystery box and a bunch of lore that fans are going to obsess with because a lot of these indie shows are made from early YouTube or Tumblr crowds, like kind of things. So taking away the more narky, like pessimistic side of the show, even though I still, like I said, I still like the characters, but being able to put Pommy and King as the main focus really helped like expand on this world and characters because until like now a lot of these characters kind of felt one note in a way. Like, I don't know if you agree with me on that or not.
They are a bunch of archetypes, but I've always thought that Pomni was given the most characterization, not just because out of everyone in the group, she's sort of the newest, so she's kind of our entry point into the world, but in this episode in particular, We really get to see her actually grow as a character and kind of find her own strengths. And again, because this is a horror episode, she's already been put through hell in the first two adventures. This time, she's really being put to the test.
It's like it's more character growth for Pomni, and it was fun to see someone like King get more build up as a character, because at first I was like, so far a lot of these characters again are still one note. Ragatha's the kind of the mom of the gang. Jax is the annoying older brother who's completely pessimistic and snarky. Gangle is just one nervous breakdown joke, and Kinger is he was just kind of like a manic mess, and Zubul was just kind of whatever, like a snarky, like Stephanie Beatrice from Brooklyn Nine-Nine kind of character, very like sarcastic and dry and being like whatever about everything. And of course we have Kane, who is still
Insane.
is so like really the strength of this episode was focusing on Pomni and Kinger, and how Kinger is not just a unstable mess of a character. He still has nuance to him when he is able to let himself be emotionally and mentally calm. Their bonding experience when they're getting horrified by the more monstrous encounter was the best part of Kinger just being like, listen, you have to cherish the kindness that you get, because you won't know when that kindness will leave you. And you get to learn that he used to have a wife. It brought more substance to a show that I was kind of on the edge of saying was more style than there's more going on under the hood of this series. And hearing Zubul go through mostly like an identity crisis of, like they say in the show, finding the right pieces to put on me, like to put myself together to figure out who I am. And I don't fully believe Kane has grown as a character in this one. He still has all the power in his gloves. And I don't think he learned anything through that pseudo reverse psychiatry session.
Yeah, I sometimes think of Kane as kind of like the Joker in that you have no idea what his past is. You just never know what's going on in that head of his. And he's
What
just
head? He's a jaw with floating eyes.
exactly.
Like, I understand the appeal and the concept. He is completely unaware of his powers and how the things he does are completely sadistic and horrifying to a bunch of people who are stuck there against their own will. We're going to slowly figure out what kind of mystery is afoot and who is actually behind Kane and putting everyone there. And like I said, I think taking Jax out of the episode along with Ragatha and Gangle was a smart move. Like, I'm waiting for them to grow as characters, but I think taking them out was smart, because I feel like, I guess for me, Jax is that one character who I feel like can be a little too much.
He is. I think the next episode needs to be one where he gets taken down a peg.
Because I understand he's apparently the youngest member of the crew, and he's not really taking anything seriously, which, yeah, I understand at that age point. You're like, oh, everything's fine, when there is nothing fine about the situation they're in.
Oh no, not at all.
I'm still not fully on board with Gangle as a character either. Like, I think her concept is really cool, but She just seems like, again, an emotional wreck joke, like just waiting to break down and be mopey. And I think that gets a little annoying when that's basically her only gag throughout the whole episode. Like, I get that a lot of this is Pomni's journey, but I feel like, and what they are doing is slowly introducing more pathos to everyone in the show. And even though there's a lot of context as to how Glitch is able to make this show look as good as it does, I am still amazed at the team of animators that they have for this show. I think this is one of the more interesting CGI series out there right now, whether it's from a big studio or from this hopefully blossoming indie scene.
I think I said this last time that this like the world that they created reminds me a lot of like kind of the Adult Swim version of a lot of those PC educational games from like the 90s. They found a way to take that aesthetic and actually give some like engaging, overarching mystery surrounding what the hell this world is and doing all these like wild adventures.
It's a mix of, it feels like analog horror. It has the visual aesthetic of early 90s CGI animation that just looks really good. And unlike a lot of horror media these days, at least animated horror media, this one is legitly creepy. I mean, I wasn't like screaming or panicking when that angel creature that they encounter was on screen, but it captures a mood and atmosphere that a lot of animation struggles to do because it's either not executed well or family friendly Halloween stuff. Here, nah, they're going to have legit creepy monsters and they're going to have an unsettling atmosphere. Even then, though, they still pull in a few laughs that are really funny. The one you sent me was still great. It's probably still the best joke of the episode.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
Please,
please
please
don't
don't
come
cut him
alive.
alive. Okay,
Okay.
I won't.
Okay. I just, I feel so bad for Pomni. Her facial animation is just making her be like, I am going to have another panic attack the longer I am here and letting all of this happen.
One gag
like
that I really liked was her wild take. Her eyes couldn't pop back in, and Kinger's like, "Ah, I remember my first wild take."
I think I was just in general surprised how much I liked Kinger as a character. The heart to heart talk that he had with Pomni, and how the sadness of it all that Kinger will not remember any of this the moment they leave is heartbreaking. Even though, like, as Pomni says, it's like, you're not going to remember this when we go back. And he's like, well, that's true, but you'll remember it. And that's what matters. Good on Sean Chiplock for that line read. It is so good. I mean, his cast is good, but hearing that line read in a show that is sometimes teeters on being a little too like, whoa, I am zany, was good. Like, this show is going to have to survive on making sure that the zaniness does not overtake the heart. Honestly, I feel like that kind of happened with Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss. Like, not that they haven't improved, but it's hard to take that series seriously. And and to be clear, I'm not trying to put these two shows against one another. They're both doing something that they do well, but I'm finding myself more emotionally invested with Digital Circus now than I am with some of the other indie series out there, where they're more about the hyper violence, the zany dark comedy, the we're not made by a studio corporate mandate kind of mindset, where I'm like, okay, you're flashy, but that's all you are. I need a little more Uthra.
There's nothing wrong with the zaniness, but it's all about balance. And this episode found that balance. Also has fun with, I guess, some of the lampshading towards the end of the episode. We find Jax has been like tied up and gagged for
Right.
reasons we have no idea.
Well, we know what he was going to
Oh yeah, no, of course.
do. No, but it is funny that it's just like Ragatha and Gangle were like, if we want to make it through this, we got to take care of the one problem, and that problem is Jax. So we'll see if they do start expanding on the other characters in the future. I think they will. I don't think there are that many episodes in this show's first season. I think it's like either 6 or 8 episodes. I can't recall what that announcement video said, but it's funny how talked about the first episode. We were like, this is really cool. It's doing really well. That's important. But I'm not fully on board with this show. But now I am. And I'm happy about that because I don't want to ever come back from a show being like, well, that was that, I guess. Like, I want to be amused, entertained, and there to be a reason for me to be invested with the show. Like a lot of shows, if you lose me, you're done. I will not pick you back up.
I'm just glad that this is moving in a direction where it's like now that it's on both YouTube and Netflix, it's going to attract a bigger audience because there are people who are invested now that want to see more of these characters and more of these adventures. As far as how many episodes we have left, I think 6 to 8 would be good for this first season, and then we'll just take it from there.
I mean, I know a lot of people are going to be like, but I want all the episodes. And it's just like, well, you know what? You got to keep supporting the show then. If you want more episodes, you buy their merchandise, you watch their episodes on repeat, you just make it work. Make it that they are constantly a hit. Because when that money runs out, there's not going to be much left. There's going to be nothing they can do about it. Because that's kind of the double edged sword of being an indie production. You have full creative freedom with whatever you want to do. You also have to fund the project itself. But, this one's going to do well. I'm not saying I'm worried about Digital Circus's future. This show is like ridiculously big.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing fine. But I just hope the success of this show can start bleeding into the other series.
One more thing before we move on to Uzumaki. I think what YouTube did, or what someone on YouTube did earlier today, is pretty cool. There's a playlist now for all different indie animated series. If you want like a place to watch them all in one place, try to find that YouTube playlist.
Hopefully, YouTube adds more to that playlist and not just the ones that get the most views. If a new indie pilot comes out, put it on the list.
Yes.
Put it on there, no hesitation, no rules. You just do it. And again, to all the indie animation fans, you have to watch more than just 2 shows. I'm sorry that this sounds like I'm parenting y'all, but it needs to happen. Like, you want indie animation to thrive? Support all the indie animated shows coming out. The same level and energy you give to Has Been Hotel, Hell of a Boss, and Digital Circus. You do that with every single one. And I know that sounds like a tall order. Too bad. It's going to happen. It has to happen until the main animation industry can fix itself. Like, once that's fixed, the indie scene can probably flourish again or flourish more. But hopefully, with these negotiations that are still going on, I'm so frustrated. Just take the deal that the animators want, studios. Then you can start making more stuff.
You need them more than they need you, but also they need to make a living.
I hate to still be this curmudgeon about the indie animation scene, but right now, animation's in not a great place.
No.
And a great example of that is the Uzumaki 4-episode series. What a way to end this pseudo Halloween episode. Obviously, for those that may not know, this is based off of Junji Ito's probably his most famous work, or at the very least, it's one of his most famous works because he's one of those kings of the horror manga scene. Pretty much the Mount Rushmore of horror manga. He is there. And unfortunately, I don't know many other authors who are really good. And that's on me. I need to do research on that. But if you're talking about horror manga authors, you're probably going to hear Junji Ito's name the most. And an infamous history of Junji Ito's work is the fact that it can never quite make the jump to animation. I know some people like the live action Uzumaki, but that's very pulpy B movie stuff. I wouldn't say it's a great adaptation. But unfortunately, on the animation side of things, where you think, oh, this would be a perfect home for Junji Ito adaptations, we can animate the stuff that he draws. Unfortunately, you're part of the anime industry. And the anime industry has been wholly not willing to drop the cash and the production time to ever make a Junji Ito adaptation work. They always look cheap. They're never scary, which is a huge issue with being a horror manga adaptation. And I do think, like, I agree with Mother's Basement's discussion about it. I think making them color does rob the visuals of the horror. There is just something about Uzumaki and a lot of Junji Ito's work that needs to stay black and white. And for some reason, no directors have been able to crack the same horror code that the manga versions crack every single time. I have had trouble sleeping because I decided to go down a Junji Ito rabbit hole and read his work. It is scary stuff. So when this announcement happened, it was very obviously hyped. And you see that one teaser trailer showing off the beautiful, luscious black and white pseudo motion capture rotoscope animation of the world of Uzumaki. It was like, oh my goodness, we may actually crack the code. We are finally going to get out of this Seinfeld curse of Junji Ito adaptations.
I remember seeing that trailer and being like, oh my God, wow, this looks incredible. They actually managed to translate Junji Ito's nightmare fuel into animation.
Unfortunately, what we got was not that. Oh man. Unfortunately, after when the first episode dropped, the rest of the show came out and everyone was like, what happened? Obviously, a lot of people wanted to put the blame on DeMarco, which is not fair to him. And he is not the guy you need to be blaming.
Nope.
If you've ever actually seen him talk or discuss stuff on Twitter, he doesn't seem like the guy who would intentionally fumble such excited project. And as of right now, there are no real word on what exactly happened because, of course, everything is caught under an NDA. And as usual, you really don't want to break those if you don't want to deal with the consequences of getting sued out the wazoo of breaking an NDA. Breaking an NDA is basically one of the quickest ways to get blacklisted in any industry. Of course, people will probably want to talk about exactly what the heck happened. So far, the biggest thing that has been said is something happened during the production of the show. After the first episode got done, well, let's see what happened. COVID happened, and David Zaslav decided to say, I hate art, because that's just who he is, a blithering, withering toad of a despicable, horrible human being.
And shame on the WB board for keeping him around for reasons I still have no idea why he's still around.
As long as he's making money, that's all they care about, which I don't think he is. Kill his contract, kick him out, get him out of there. So essentially what happened, or what is said to believe what happened, was something during the production halted, and because the people at on top, the ones who are way up there, who don't actually work on the shows, were essentially not happy about how long this was going to take to make and how much money they were going to spend, which is so funny that there are so many investors and people who are in charge of Hollywood at all these studios who are deeply afraid of spending money. And it's just like, boy, you really don't want to be in this industry then, because you're going to do nothing but spend money, because you cannot throw out a cheap looking film and having it just look bad, because like there's no $0 budget.
No.
Everything costs money, from the micro budget to the small budget to the medium budget to the overly bloated AAA $200 million budget movies. It's going to cost you stuff. And here's an idea: stop spending so much money on one singular project. But that would mean that they would have to not do that for this project. But it's shocking how the animation difference of Uzumaki, while very much hyperbolically said online, is not as bad of a shift. The problem is the motion capture rotoscope stuff they were doing for the first episode obviously did not carry into the second, third, and fourth episode. Maybe it picked up slightly in the third and fourth, but it is very much not there.
I was gonna bring that up too about the animation. Like, obviously, episode one is like very much its own thing in terms of like the production value. And I'm not saying episodes 2 through 4 are as bad as that one clip from the end of episode 2 that went viral. That is a bad frame, but it's not like this is X-Arm or some of the other disasters that we've seen over the years. Worse, this is just doesn't live up to the quality of the first episode.
No, and that's hard when there were sudden shifts in animation teams. You can look at it in the credits. So much changed. And you can look up the information of it also on the Wikipedia of like who was in charge of what and where. And like I said, just look at the credits in general. It's shocking because like just how different the teams change because of whatever studios were willing to do it for cheaper. The problem is, because they laid out a foundation from the first episode, the 2D animation has to compromise and work the same way that the motion capture rotoscope stuff did. And you can't really do that without it looking extremely clunky. Junji Ito's artwork is one of those like trio of manga artwork, like artists, that's impossible to adapt properly. Like it's Junji Ito, Yoshitaka Amano, and the late great creator of Berserk, where their art is so detailed, and to make it fluid and look good takes a lot of time and money to make it work, which is why you get people to come in and adapt the designs, because otherwise it's going to look clunky if you work on a small budget but you still want to keep the visual like look of the movie or of the show or whatever on that same level. I mean, that's why Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust is so good, because instead of just doing Yoshitaka Amano's designs, they got the Ninja Scroll director, Yoshiaki Kawajiri, to come in and put his stamp on those designs. That's why they got the person who, the illustrator of Full Metal Alchemist, to do a series that was using Yoshitaka Amano's work. And to this adaptation of Uzumaki's credit, it does its best to stay cohesive to Ito's artwork and tries to have all of the horror that comes with the stories that are in Uzumaki. Because the story of this young girl student returning to this town and realizing that it has been infected with people who are obsessed with spirals. It's a really cool concept, and it leaves a lot open to what happens during these stories. Most of them are episodic. They happen not on top of one another, but against one another. Like
Yeah.
like some of them return later on, but a lot of that is, from what I could tell, an anime decision where they just crammed in all these stories that, because like there are so many amazing visuals from Uzumaki, that they wanted to get it in while making the sacrifice of not enough episodes, and these really needed to be either an hour long episodes to pace everything out, or you need to make changes, you need to make compromises. What are the stories within Uzumaki that do not contribute to the overall story? Because if you got 4 episodes, trying to cram in every single story from Uzumaki is going to lead to unsatisfying results.
Did they adapt every single story, or are these just the most well known that they adapted?
No, they pretty much adapted, from what I could tell or remember. They put in every single story from Uzumaki into this whole thing, which is why so many of the incidences that happen within this adaptation feel out of place or tonally off. And why it's like, wow, that was a weird way to end that story. Like the hair incident just ends with a character we know nothing about, like ending up with her hair tied to a pole and then dying after the hurricane goes through. It's like, okay, that was important, I guess. Or like the dad's obsession with the spirals kicks off early, and then it doesn't really pick up with the other dad from the main character.
Until like the
Uh,
fourth episode.
yeah, the 4th episode, where he's just like, I gotta make pottery, I gotta do spirals, when he's like trapping all the souls within his pottery, because he just became so obsessed with what happened to Suichi's dad. That, and then like there's like the mosquito women or the snail people. And then by the 3rd episode, it's just like, okay, there's the row houses that are result in a spiral. There's the street gangs that are using tornadoes to their shenanigans. There's a reporter character that comes in into like the last episode who doesn't really matter to the whole story, but I mean, I'm sure she mattered more within the manga, but she doesn't really, like this reporter doesn't really do much in the adaptation. And then like the snail people come back at the very end as well. The problem with this adaptation is, even if we were able to get all the high quality animation from that first episode in episode 2, 3, and 4,
I said this jokingly, but the story does seem to spiral out of control.
it does. That's what happens. It is trying to do so much, connect every little thing, that it makes for a less interesting story. And this is coming from me, who Uzumaki is not even my favorite Junji Ito story. My favorite is the Frankenstein adaptation that he did. Or, of course, the infamous, what's that one where the earthquake and the people find holes that fit them and such. It's like the faults and such. Or like I still find myself constantly creeped out by the floating head balloons short story and such. Or the incident of like the giant sea creature washing up ashore. And it's just like I understand why Uzumaki got the adaptation treatment, because it's such a famous story from Junji Ito, probably the most popular one of his.
Yeah, and it was nominated for an Eisner Award twice, both in 2003 and 2009.
I wonder how that works. It's, and to be clear, it's not like nothing works. That first episode is going to go down as one of the great first episode of horror anime adaptations.
Oh, absolutely.
It is able to capture Junji Ito's work far more than any other adaptation ever has, even with the faults. But it's hard to take this whole show as scary when some of the incidences are more funny or annoying or weird than like, oh, that's scary.
Am I the only one who got Courage the Cowardly Dog vibes from this show? Maybe it's just the music in the background or some characters, the way they talk. They kind of remind me of characters from that show.
No, I get you. It's, well, they adapted Jack in the Box story from the second volume of Uzumaki, where that one weird kid. It's like, haha, I want you to open this Jack in the Box. Oh, you don't want to? Well, jump in front of this car, and horribly dies, but then comes back as a corpse zombie thing with a spring in his torso. And it's meant to be scary. It's meant to, like, a lot of these are meant to be scary, but because of the sudden shift in animation quality, it's not scary. It just falls into the same trap the other animation adaptations fall into. And it doesn't help that they went from production IG and Drive to Akatsuki, the same people who did the Lovecraft horror anime they did a few years ago. I think it was
Oh,
like Housing Complex C or something like that.
yep, that's the
And
one.
it's a mess of a production, because the first episode is amazing. The others fumble and try to pick up the pieces, but no matter what exactly happens, the story results in it being an underwhelming experience. And to me, it was always going to be disappointing, because I was always disappointed with Uzumaki as a overall story. And going in knowing where it was going to go, and I understand if it was trying to be this nihilistic, like nothing is going to change about this small town. It's going to rebuild itself and then break itself down with the same people and the same fates happening to them every single time. It's meant to be tragic, but it doesn't work because the story fumbles in both the manga and the anime adaptation. And some of the scenes that are meant to be scary come off as funny. Like, just is like when one of the guys at the inn turned into a snail and hides in his shell. This other guy's like, well, some bugs do this. And it's meant to be scary because now it's like the breaking down of human civilization, of them just eating one another, despite the fact that these giant snails used to be people.
The way it's animated, yeah. I found myself laughing a lot in moments like that.
And it's not like Junji Ito can't make something funny. Some of his manga are very funny in a dark comedy sort of sense. Some of them do have tragically funny endings. But here, it's meant to be, again, nihilistic. Like, there's no hope for this town. Yeah, I can't believe I'm thinking about this, because knowing that everything's just going to be as it is in the anime version, Why the hell is Japan not doing anything about it? Why are they constantly rebuilding that small town when you know what's going to happen? Do people just forget about it? Do people not know about the spiral sensation that happens every other year or like couple of years? Does Japan's government know about this weird time loop?
And then just choose to ignore it.
It's just like, how much money is it going to cost? Oh, that much? You know what? Screw those people. Just like real politicians. Sorry. We are recording this a day after the Madison Square Garden rally. So it's, a lot of us are on edge right now.
Yeah, you can vote early, do it, please.
Yeah, love of God, do it. Yes, it's way better of an adaptation than other previous ones, but it's still like you're grading on a curve.
And maybe it won't apply to Uzumaki specifically, but other Junji Ito adaptations. Do you think they would do better as movies when you have a larger budget to work with? Or is this just a specific case of things went wrong during this production and that's why we're in the place that we are?
The thing is, a lot of Junji Ito's work are one-off stories. There's only a few of his creations that could lead to a movie or a single season of TV. But you can't really make any of them a movie. Maybe the Frankenstein adaptation or the more cosmic horror like space one from I forgot what it was called, but otherwise making them TV episodes works better. They need to be an hour long, and you really have to be willing to let the purse strings go. Spend as much money and take as long as it's going to take. Animation takes a long time, and unfortunately, that is what scares Hollywood right now. They're like, oh, we're spending so much money, and what do you mean this is not going to come out for another 4 to 5 years? Why can't it come out yesterday? That's why we're going to be working on reality TV shows because they're cheap. We can dump them out by the truckloads and they make so much money because there's just not a whole lot else to watch.
It's always frustrating when the people up top have so little patience for the craft of art that they really are just like shooting themselves in the foot by not appreciating the people who are making them billions of dollars every year.
And they're just like not accepting new ideas right now. They want surefire hits when you have to make original ideas. You have to gamble. You have to let shows find their audience. You gotta trust creatives are going to make a story that will cater to a good sizable audience without having to step in and be like trying to make it a 4 quadrant release. There's a reason why more people respect that than something that was made by committee. There's a reason why, like in the anime industry, some adaptations get the money and the time. And even then, it's probably still not going to be enough, Mappa. Like, honestly, like, maybe it's just time to not adapt Junji Ito work. Until the industry is willing to throw down the money and time to do it, don't do it. Don't adapt Uzumaki again. Don't adapt Junji Ito's work.
In general, when it comes to manga artists who are as detailed as Junji Ito, maybe don't bite off more than you can chew. If you're not willing to put up the money to capture the essence of the original manga or comic book or whatever, unless you're willing to put in the money and resources, just be careful and not bite off more than you can chew.
And it's like, it's a shame that this one fumbled again because there's also a very good voice cast for the English dub. You got Abby Trott, Robbie Damon, Doug Stone, Dorothy Elias Vaughn, Laura Stahl, Aaron LaPlante, Mona Marshall, Christina V, Max Middleman, KG Tang, Sean Chiplock, Jonah Scott, Erica Mendez, Koi Dao, Brianna Knickerbocker, Eric Scott Kimmerer, Jenny Yokobori, Amber Lee Connors, Stephen Fu, Larissa Gallagher, Courtney Lynn, Patrick Seitz, Kirk Thornton, and Brent Bukai. Like, they do a good job with what they're doing. It's not their fault that the story is so truncated and it spends way too much time talking when it needs to spend more time letting the story flow.
I agree with that. Like, if anything, it's that voice cast and the score composed by Colin
Okay.
Stetson,
Yeah.
who really honestly elevate the material.
Like, they were great, but yeah, it's time. Like, the people in charge of the industry need to get over the fact that everything costs money, because you're wasting creatives and talented people's times by not paying them well and letting them breathe. You're
Okay, that you
telling,
don't need your third yacht. You can spend that money actually towards your business.
you mean to tell me you got the composer of Hereditary and The Menu to do your show, and this is what we get? It's the best part, but again, you're grading on a curve. This show or miniseries, simply put, is an example of the current frustration everyone has at the studio system. We had something amazing, but then Zaslav had to come in and be like, nope. And yes, it might not just be all on Zaslav, but considering what he's done these past few years, he is going to be your villain number one. It's not DeMarco. It's not the Japanese crew. It's not anyone who worked on this show. It's the people at the very top and the hatchet men that they assign to kill projects like this. And kudos to DeMarco and the teams working on this for doing what they can. They did what they could with what they got. And while it didn't really work out, it's better than to lose something like this into the void of shows and movies that had lost potential.
I would rather be disappointed with this final product than to have not had it at all.
It's just a lot, and it's so disappointing. If you still want to see it, apparently, like, it's all on Max, and apparently it will be on Netflix Asia or like other parts of the world. Yeah, there's just not a whole lot to talk about with this Halloween episode, and I'm kind of sad about that. Like, a whole show, an adaptation of something like Uzumaki that is full of thematic commentary of obsession, paranoia, isolation, discrimination, bullying. There's so much you could do and focus on with that. Wasn't given the time of day, we saw what happened. It's tiring. I'm so tired of these executives who do nothing, just wrecking everything, making it worse. They're not saving money or giving us good products or pieces of art to enjoy. They're constantly giving us worse stuff. And there's a big, sharp decline of what it was like before COVID hit to now. And it's not like there aren't great shows. There are still amazing shows that are getting released. But in the first time in a while, I feel like I've sat through a year or an era where I'm like, half of these aren't as good as they could be.
It's a bummer. Even though we have been talking about great movies and shows this year, it still feels just like a bummer where the industry is at right now. And yeah, I know we're still recovering from the 1-2 punch of COVID and double strikes last summer, but still, I want things to get better. Things need to get better for everyone.
Yeah, don't blame the strikes, didn't do anything. It's all the frigging like things that have happened from the executive order. Like, the people making the shows want to make a good show. It's not their fault that the executives are coming in and ruining everything because they're so hyper focused on making the most money. Yeah, I wish this was a happier Halloween episode, but it's not. Next time, we're going to talk about Lara Croft Tomb Raider and Vox Machina season 3. We'll get back to our more positive episodes. I'm hoping the rest of this year's podcast can be positive, no matter what's happening in the real world and within the industry. We'll
That's
see
what
what
I'm hoping
happens.
for as well. But until next time, Cameron, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on Twitter for who knows how long now, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads at Cam's Eye View. I have my own website called camseyeview.biz, and you can see my reviews for live action and animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. And I have a Patreon at patreon.com/camseyeview. That's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me on various social media sites at Captain K42. You can find my quick thoughts on letterbox.com/Coach K42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Blue Sky at Ren Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. You can escape, so do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.